For these findings, Rae was awarded the Founder's Gold Medal of the Royal Geographical Society. In 1853 to 1854, Rae made a major discovery that King William Land was not a peninsula but was in fact an island. This was named Rae Strait in his honour. This now meant that the fabled Northwest Passage could finally be navigated via a passage of open channels which linked the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean. During this trip to the Arctic, Rae spoke with Inuit, who told him that some 40 white men had died of starvation and had resorted to cannibalism. The Inuit also had various Franklin finds on their person, and with this information, Rae decided to return home to London with his findings. Rae made 2 reports, one for the public, which did not mention cannibalism, and one for the Admiralty. Unfortunately, the Admiralty released their version to the press. As you can imagine, this caused a huge outcry in Victorian society. It was simply far too shocking to believe that Sir John Franklin, the hero of the Northwest Passage, and his crew had resorted to cannibalism as a last resort. Franklin's widow Jane turned to her friend, the author Charles Dickens, for support. She needed to protect her husband's reputation. It is here that we start to see the Victorian equivalent of cancel culture happening to John Rae. Dickens wrote negatively about Rae in his magazine Household Words. He dismissed the report as wild tales of primitive savages. Eventually, others chimed in with this public desecration of Rae, even other polar explorers, and this likely cost Rae a knighthood. Lady Franklin successfully discredited Rae and was victorious in claiming that her husband, John Franklin, was in fact the discoverer of the Northwest Passage. Lady Franklin even cemented this belief in stone on her husband's memorial in Westminster Abbey. The beloved chief of the gallant crews who perished with him in completing the discovery of the Northwest Passage. Other memorials exist with similar sentiments. Rae took his prize money owed to him for finding out what happened to the Franklin expedition. He shared it with his men and then went to live in Hamilton in Canada. He worked on the telegraph line, he made surveys, and he even purchased a ship at one point. He lived quietly away from the limelight with his new wife Kate, having been shunned by the establishment for his Franklin findings. He eventually died of an aneurysm at home in Kensington in London when he was 79, with little recognition for the incredible feats he'd attained during his lifetime. He was buried in his homeland of Orkney. By the end of his career, Rae had ultimately mapped 1,755 miles of Arctic coast, largely on foot or boat. His unique skill at learning the ways of indigenous people showed him to be an open-minded and humble man who was the ultimate specialist in cold climate survival. Incidentally, 20th century archaeology on King William Island has since confirmed that the Franklin expedition did indeed resort to cannibalism, and we can now see some of the wiping from the history books which was achieved so successfully by Jane Franklin in her time starting to be reversed. I present John Rae here to you today as an explorer who was truly ahead of his time, and he deserves to be celebrated and remembered.